Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans, for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Saturday, August 17th, 2024, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH, how's it going, my friend?
It's well, buddy. Nice to talk with you here on the precipice of Buckeye season. Mid-August. I mean, what could be better?
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Great to hear your voice. We are also joined by fellow contributor Chad Plummer from Cleveland. CP, what's the word from the 216, my friend?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
I mean, this is like a very exciting time that we are about to encroach upon. But it's good to fucking hear you guys' voices. It's all good. Kid turned 55, keeping the dream alive.
Happy birthday, buddy.
On Thursday.
All right. Happy birthday.
Other than that, like the 216 is all good.
All right. Well, we are exactly 2 weeks from Ohio State's season opener against Akron, fellas. Now, as expected, Will Howard was just named the Buckeyes starting quarterback by Ryan Day on Thursday. And just today, Travion Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, Jack Sawyer, and Cody Simon were named team captains for 2024. Simon will wear the honorable Block O jersey this season. Simon was also named an Iron Buckeye during the offseason. I'm expecting big things from Cody Simon this season. Also, the first AP poll of the season just came out on Monday, boys. The Buckeyes landed at number 2 in that poll. The coaches poll, which came out last week, also has the Buckeyes at number 2. Now, it's weird. I would say weird, I guess expected. Neither of these polls really determined much of anything in the CFP era, as we know. They really kind of served nothing more as, preseason podcast fodder at this stage. But I was personally very surprised that Ohio State, given the offseason that they had, was such a distant second to Georgia in both polls. The Buckeyes only received 15 first-place votes in the AP poll and only 7 in the coaches poll. Meanwhile, Georgia got 46 first-place votes in both polls. I was a little surprised by that. Now, the top 10 in both polls is pretty much identical with just one exception. Penn State and Michigan are flip-flopped at 8 and 9. So the top 10 looks like this. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Oregon. Number 4, Texas. Number 5, Alabama. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 7, Notre Dame. Number 8, Penn State. Number 9, Michigan. And they're flip-flopped in the coaches poll. The other way around, Michigan is 8, Penn State is 9. And finally, Florida State checks in at number 10. The Big Ten and SEC dominate the top 10. Each have 4 teams in the top 10 of both polls. CP, let me kick this over to you. Any thoughts, initial thoughts on the top 10 here?
Not really, man. Like I expected, I still we got I don't know, 7 or 8 first place votes. I was expecting a few more than that. But you know what? I'm all good with right where we are, man.
Number 2, you're good with it. Okay, it feels about right.
How about good with it? Like it's all good.
Okay, how about you, PVH? Does that look about right to you? The top 10?
Yeah, the top 10 looks right to me. I definitely with you, though. I would have thought Ohio State would have had a little bit more consideration to be ranked number 1.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe it's still just the bad taste and everybody's, watching the Missouri game or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And candidly, I don't even. Well, Georgia didn't even make the playoff last year.
That's right. Yeah, they're not coming off a national title, so I don't know how they get the automatic number 1 stamp, other than that they're an SEC team. I don't know.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it's the same thing with Alabama, right? It's just
Yep.
recency bias, and do they probably deserve? Sure, fine. And again, right? Does it matter? Not really, but. I'm with you. I would have thought they would have had more consideration or more first place votes just with their offseason alone.
Totally. Just given you get all those draft eligible players to come back. You go out and get 6 high impact transfers, including Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, all those guys. Then you add Chip Kelly as your OC. I would have thought the margin between both Ohio State and Georgia would have been a little tighter. But also, one thing I wondered is, if that is more about having more trust and faith in Kirby Smart than Ryan Day at this stage, which if that's the way that you voted, if you're a voter, I wouldn't at this stage blame you for doing that. In any case, these polls don't mean shit. The one that really means something, It doesn't come out until I think the end of October. So it's just something to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. With the opener only 14 days away, I want to do some level setting with predictions for the 2024 season today. I want to start with some player personnel prognostications. Then we'll get into, records and playoff and that sort of thing toward the end. And then I do want to leave some time toward the end to talk a little bit about recruiting. Ohio State got some unfortunate recruiting news today that we'll get into later in the pod. So here we go. First prediction of the pod. Which Ohio State player or players do you think will be in the Heisman discussion this season? CP, I want to start with you. Who do you got?
Wow. You know what? I mean, it's crazy. But I'm going to have to say my boy, Trey. Like, he's like, I mean, I like, how I've always been high on Trey, injury-prone Trey, but
yeah,
he's got potential if he can stay healthy. I mean, Mbuka, there's a couple of our receivers, I mean, Mbuka's probably got the best chance, but
Trey is your guy.
Real good.
Yeah, he was playing the best football of his career over the last 6 games of last season. When he came back from injury, he was awesome. And if he can carry that forward into 2024, I'm with you, man. He's got a solid chance.
The beautiful thing about that is like we have Jenkins just came up from Ole Miss, who's led the SEC he's like a stud.
That's huge. Yeah, Judkins is a 2-time first team All SEC selection, so that Duke can play. PVH, how about you?
I'm gonna it's the only guy that's got any chance in my opinion is Howard, right? Because the receivers, there's just too much talent, right? They're going to cancel themselves out, right? With Tate and Mbuka, so I find it hard to believe any one of them are going to, I expect them all to be great, but they're just not going to get the Heisman consideration. Same thing, with running back, Junkins is probably going to chip away at what, if Trey, could stay healthy, if he could potentially be in the Heisman race. So the only one to me that I think legitimately has a chance could be Howard. And if it's not Howard, then I would, then nobody.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, before I give you guys my answer, I shared this trivia question with our followers on X the other day. Which player on the Ohio State roster has the most 60-plus yard runs in his career? Does one of you know? CP, PVH? Which Ohio State player on this current roster has the most 60-plus yard runs from scrimmage in his career? That's
Howard.
Right. That's right. It's Will Howard. Yeah. And you actually stole my thunder, PVH. I totally agree with you, man. I think, as the trigger man of an offense with perhaps the best skill talent in college football, I think Howard is going to reach statistical heights he never was able to come close to at Kansas State because he just didn't have the supporting cast. He's also going to have a veteran offensive line with 4 seniors protecting him this season. And I think Howard's going to surprise some people with his playmaking ability. And I also think there's plenty of arm talent there to distribute the ball to an explosive group of receivers. I considered Emeka Egbuka, Trey Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins here, but I agree with you, PVH, again. I know great minds think alike, I guess. I don't think Ohio State is going to have quite the passing offense this season that's going to allow any of their receivers to put up, Heisman-like numbers. The Heisman it's a quarterback running back award, right? If a receiver is going to get any serious considerations, they have to really put up, astronomical numbers. And I agree with you, PVH. I think there's a really good chance that Trey Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, with the timeshare there at running back, probably going to cancel each other out. Now, my second choice, and this is a bit of a flyer, is Caleb Downs. My bold prediction is that I think he's going to lead Ohio State in interceptions this season. I think he's going to have the opportunity to make some plays on special teams as well as a punt returner. So that's my kind of flyer dark horse prediction that Downs will also be in the conversation. Now, for the record, I don't think an Ohio State player wins the Heisman this season. They have much bigger goals, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I don't really give a fuck. Let's just win.
Yeah, totally. But I'd be surprised if they don't send a player to New York as a finalist. If we think they're going to be as good as we think they are, if I had to bet on it, I think it's probably going to be Howard. We've seen it a million times before, right? The quarterback of the best team often gets an invite to New York, even if he's far from the country's best player. All right. Next question. Give me a player who might not be a household name for most fans right now that you think will make a big impact for the Buckeyes this season. CP, get us started. Who's that player going to be?
I'm going to tell you right now, dude. Ennis. Kid's going to run a couple touchdowns back at punt return.
I like it. Brandon
Yeah.
Innes. All right. Yeah.
No one like really knows that kid yet, but like he's about ready to bust loose on the scene.
Yeah. He's a hell of a player. Ryan Day said several times during fall camp that you feel Brandon Innes' presence when he's out on the field. Now, an unknown to most
I was gonna
Buckeye
say
fans
the
now.
obvious, but like the number 4, the beast, the freak, Jeremiah. But like that's just pretty much everybody knows who the fuck he is now.
Yeah, I would say he's a household name at this stage. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How about you, PVH?
Well, like that question, like I thought about it, it's almost impossible, right? Because like they're just so stacked everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So like the one guy that I would like to see, but I'm not even sure if he could even get on the field with this team is that cornerback
Jermaine Matthews, yeah.
right?
Oh.
Or Jermaine.
Yeah, Jermaine Matthews.
Jermaine, but like I don't know, man. You got Hancock out there, you got Burke. I mean, is he even going to get
it's
playing
crazy.
time?
Well, he
Right?
got a fair amount of playing time last year. I mean, he actually started 2 games, if you remember, in place of Denzel Burke, who was injured.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm thinking, like if somebody gets nicked up, or I don't know the packages, but every time that I've seen him on the field,
Yeah.
that dude splashed, right? I mean, I
Totally.
think he was a 5-star, or
Close to
obviously
it.
very highly regarded player. And then maybe who's the transfer tight end? Like
Will Kazmarek
Oh.
from Ohio
from
University.
Ohio.
Yeah.
So maybe
They
that guy.
say he's looking legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other guy that what's his name loves the other tight end, the other podcast guy shit on.
Oh, like
Jelani Thurman.
Jelani Thurman, yeah.
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 do they say he could like be like a huge contributor this year? Like I think Geese Scott might get like left like on the back of the boss.
Yeah,
I'm just
They said
looking.
he's balling too, but like that Thurman, that kid's like lanky,
He's
fast.
6'6",
like
258.
I know,
Like,
Yeah.
he's like Ricky Dudley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Landis is the one that always talks.
and
Yeah.
he's more of an athlete than Ricky Dudley.
Yeah, it was interesting because Ryan Day just talked about the tight ends earlier this week on Thursday, and he did mention Thurman's name, but also as somebody that just needs to be more consistent. He's just not quite there. I feel like Thurman's a year away. So CP, you stole my first choice, which is Brandon Innes. So great pick there. As an
nice.
honorable mention, I got Mitchell Melton. I'm intrigued by Melton, and I heard Jeremy Birmingham, Bill Landis, and Austin Ward all say just this past week that Melton is Ohio State's best pure pass rusher. Now, Jim Knowles said a couple of weeks ago that he wants his defense to create more havoc, more lost yardage plays, more turnovers. That was music to my ears because, as the two you well know, I've been bitching about the need for more playmaking from the defense for a while now.
Yes.
I mean, only 28
Right.
sacks for the Buckeye defense last season, the lowest output by a Buckeye defense in terms of sacks since 2016. Only 72 tackles for loss, which, not counting the COVID-shortened 2020 season, was the program's lowest total since 2012. Only 11 takeaways, and that was the lowest output by an Ohio State defense in the last 50-plus years. In my research, I went all the way back to 1970. I could not find an Ohio State defense that forced fewer than 11 turnovers. I mean, they were probably wearing fucking leather helmets the last time an OSU
Big
defense
snore.
was
Yes,
that
big
ineffective
snore.
at forcing turnovers. So if Knowles is true to his word, and I believe that he is, and wants to create more havoc, Mitchell Melton, I think, is going to be key. In a very long season, he figures to get snaps. You got to get that kid on the field. So that's my pick as the player that's not yet a household name, who I think will be by the end of the season.
You know what? I've been a big fan of JK like since he came over here. Like, yeah, it's a little rough when he first came. But
Yeah.
the one thing that I just don't want to get caught up in is like he's talking about like changing like looks and this and that. Like all right, let's just like we finally have some linebackers. I know we're gonna get into defense later, but like just you know what? Let's put a defense on the field that like go back to the silver bullets. Like makes us proud. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's real shit.
So this is interesting
it
because
crazy.
this is another thing I've heard Birmingham, Landis, and Ward talk about, as well as some other guys on the beat, that actually Ohio State is there's been a battle of wills between Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson about the defense, because Larry Johnson is insistent on a 4-man defensive front, and Knowles' defense is predicated on 3 down linemen with a stand-up jack, 3 safeties. And it seems as though that battle of wills, at which Larry Johnson is winning because they play primarily with 4 down linemen, is affecting Ohio State's ability to create more havoc, more, lost yardage plays and turnovers. So I thought that was very interesting. It'll be interesting to see this season with how loaded they are on defense. You got Caleb Downs on the back end. They could actually mix things up. They could get more creative and be less predictable on defense, and I think that'll help. I don't know, PBH, you got an opinion about that? Are you hearing or reading the same thing as I am in that regard?
Well, I mean, it goes back to, his first year, he kind of went for broke when he didn't need to go for broke.
Right.
And so, the lack of turnovers is probably the last, 2 years sort of overcompensating for that, which we definitely talked about. I mean, if you have guys that are very comparable, right? I mean, being rested and fresh, I don't even
totally
play those guys, right? I
Yeah.
mean, give them reps. That to me seems to be a no-brainer, because you're just going to wear people out by the third, fourth quarter. So yeah, I'd like to see him, get back to being a little bit more aggressive, but maybe not quite as aggressive as in his first year.
Yeah, it feels like last year was
excited about, real quick. I
Sure.
want to say one thing that I'm so super excited about. I've been wanting this for, I don't know, it's been at least 4 or 5 years. We're gonna have legitimate linebackers, baby.
Yeah.
Fucking boys that all over the field. Shit, Sonny Styles, C.J. Hicks, like Cody. I mean, oh god, it's
Yeah.
I'm just we haven't had that for so long, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It'd be interesting to see now that James Laurinaitis is the full-time linebacker coach, if he will rotate more at those positions and get a little more creative in his just, kind of the rotation there. I personally think there was an overcorrection last year by Knowles. He now has the corners, and you've got a safety and Downs at patrol in the back end there where you can take more risks. I think it's imperative. I think that would be my one criticism of the defense, and they were really, really good last year in so many other areas, but there wasn't enough playmaking. And if you look at what was the difference in the Michigan game last year, guys? 2 fucking turnovers. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the difference in the game. And, Michigan, they on their way to a national championship, they forced 27 turnovers last year. Ohio State only had 11. So I think as a defense, you have to do more than just get off the field on third down. There are moments where you're going to have to make a play when you really, really need it. I think back to the last year we won a national championship in 2014. The Michigan game that year, they sealed the Michigan game on a scoop and score by, what's his name, the linebacker. Why am I blanking on it?
Douchebag.
Yeah, help me out here, guys. Anyway, scoop and score by the defense was what sealed that game. And in the CFP semifinal against Alabama, right, they had a pick six and an interception on the goal line that was the difference in that game. So Darren Lee is the player that I'm blanking on. So you got to have some playmaking is my point, and not at the expense of giving up a shitload of explosive plays. But I think that it's incumbent on Knowles to find a balance there.
Is this Knowles' third year or fourth?
This will be his third year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got the personnel to do it. I mean, next year, when they turn over all these kids and they're going to be a younger team, maybe you can play a little bit more conservatively. But, I think you can take more risks in that regard.
You made a very good point there, Zach. You got the back end is protected.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Downs, come on, yeah.
You've got corners that can hold up in coverage, right? I mean, they can lock down their man, and you got to be
Sonny
judicious.
Styles freak all over the place.
Totally.
I mean, it's absurd. That entire defense will play in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're basically fielding an NFL defense. So,
Isn't that's crazy?
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
actually say that. It makes me my I just get this warm feeling inside my body. Yes, it's so good.
I think the benchmark for the defense when it comes to havoc plays, around 45 sacks. You got to be well over 100 tackles for loss, and I think you got to be in the 25 to 30 range in turnovers. That's really, if you go back and look at the last 10 CFP title winners, they were all right in that range in those statistics. So more playmaking is in the offing for sure, and I think we're going to see that. I would be very, very surprised. Hell, they might actually surpass last season's turnover total before October if you look at that schedule.
Yeah.
So all right, fellas, let's keep it rolling here. What's your biggest concern for the 2024 Buckeyes? CP, I'm going to start with you. Give us your biggest concern for this team this season.
Expectations. I think that is my biggest concern. Like, because I expect like we're embarking on like, and this is where I kind of like try to contain myself, like the best college, like the Ohio State team that I like in my lifetime. And like, you know, if so that like expectations, that's my answer.
Damn,
Like,
we are
just
in
like,
lockstep, you and ICP,
yeah.
because that's exactly what I was going to say. Let me dovetail off of that, and then PVH, I'm going to kick it over to you. My biggest concern is also the weight of expectations. I mean, Ohio State, first of all, they never deliver titles on the kind of expectations that we're facing this season. PVH, you and I did a pod on this back in May. This season is the 11th since 1988. That was the first year of the John Cooper regime that Ohio State is ranked in the top 2 of the preseason AP poll. Those 10 other Ohio State teams that opened the season ranked in the top 2 did not win a national title. The 2006 and 2020 teams were the closest to do it. They, as we remember, both made the national title game, but lost in blowouts in that game. Some of our listeners are probably wondering, well, what about 2002? What about 2014? The 2002 team was a preseason number 13. Far from great expectations for that team. 2014, that team was 5th in the preseason AP poll, but shortly after that poll was released, Braxton Miller had the season-ending shoulder injury in fall camp. Expectations for that team plummeted, and then, they had the week 2 loss against Virginia Tech, and everybody left that team for dead. So 2002, 2014, those teams could kind of like lay in the weeds, right? They didn't have the same level of expectations as this team. So I know, what's significantly different about this season compared to those other 10 is that, thanks to CFP expansion, the Buckeyes can now lose a game or 2, potentially even 3, and still make the playoff and contend for a national title. A single fluky loss isn't going to bump them out of title contention. PVH, I'm going to let you go, and then I've got one other comment I want to make about expectations. What's your biggest concern?
I hate to kind of agree with you guys, but I mean, there's so much ability and talent on this roster. You're just nitpicking if you're trying to find something. Oh, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. Linebackers, offensive line. Yeah, I mean, with the offensive line, that could be like maybe more of the micro what you'd be worried about. But expectations, I think, will kind of be trumped by the fact that this is a very veteran team, right? Because all those guys came back, right? And so that makes me less worried about expectations. And they all came back for 2 reasons, right? We know what the reasons are, right? Number one, they do want to definitely win a Big Ten title, beat Michigan national championship, but they're also all getting paid, right? Which is the big difference in the
$20 million.
Right? So, I feel like the money piece also sort of tempers the expectation quotient, right? Because, well, if you came back and you weren't getting paid and you didn't meet your goals, that's a different story than, hey, I still got money in my pocket, a lot of money in my pocket, and I'm going to go pro next year. So, I don't really see anything to be overly concerned about. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win the whole thing, right? Because
it's hard.
At the end of the day,
I agree with you, PPH.
It's a new rodeo, right? We don't have any idea, how the playoffs are going to play out, or, is it chaos or is it just go to script? It's a way longer season if you run the table.
Yep.
So I and then you just need luck, right? You need luck.
Almost always do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just like Cardell, dude. Like, that was luck. We won the national.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Or Holy Buckeye
like
in 2002 against Purdue, right? I mean, that team had 9 lives, that 2002 team.
Oh, my God.
The other concern for me, and I think this is part and parcel with expectations, is Ryan Day. Can he recapture his mojo from 2019 and 2020 when the Buckeyes won back-to-back Big Ten titles and back-to-back playoff appearances? And can he make better decisions in high-leverage moments is another big question. And certainly Chip Kelly's going to help him there. As we know, he's on a 3-game losing streak to Michigan. I just think the pressure on him this season is immense. I mean, look
It's
at
like,
Dan
really
Lanning is,
and that's a shame. He's 56-8 or
it is a
57
shame,
and 8.
but as we know, you
But
don't
it
get
is
credit.
what it is, man. That's like the landscape of college football.
Well,
now, man.
and at Ohio
It's like,
State, you don't get credit for beating Indiana and Purdue, right?
No,
you
yeah.
don't. I mean,
beat it, Terry.
and look, I mean, Dan Lanning isn't coaching with that level of pressure at Oregon, and Sharon Moore, who I think still has a pretty damn good team at Michigan, he ain't coached. He's coaching with house money this year. So the season does have a little bit of a last stand, if not now, then when feel to it for Ryan Day. And also to add to the pressure, fellas, Mike Vrabel is basically taking a gap year as an overqualified analyst for the Cleveland Browns. He's only 140 miles up the I-71 waiting to pounce if things go sideways for Ryan Day. So that adds a little bit of pressure and intrigue too, I think.
You know what? I'm like the only thing, like I'm very confident in RD, especially now. I feel like there's like some pressure that's been alleviated off his back, like, you know, with Chip coming in. Because, like, I mean, those guys have like big history. Like they're boys. They've been together like a long time. And I think the fact that like he doesn't have to fucking feel like he's calling everything and like trying to make now he's like what you said, Zach, there. I think he's got the time to make the educated decisions in certain instances. You know what I mean? Instead of like just
for sure. Kelly's going to have a huge role.
I do want him to get a new hat. I want him to get a new Buckeye hat.
Yeah, maybe.
I hate that fucking hat.
There's bad juju in that hat. You got to lose the fucking hat.
Dude, I know. Why doesn't he like just get rid of it?
I agree. Yeah.
Somebody should tell him. You should like send him a note.
I'm going to start a campaign, dude. Like, let's
Yeah.
Like all over
it's like a black hat with Ohio on it.
Ohio State. I'm actually wearing it. It's got the Nike swoosh under it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those little fucking like flimsy, like fucking, what do they call them? Dad hats.
Dude, that could be the whole missing portion right
dude.
there.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Yeah.
Just the hat.
The hat's got bad juju.
Drive down to Columbus like next week, go to camp and like, hey, dude, this is like from the South Stands right here. This fucking hat right here.
Should I send him a hat?
Go, dude.
Just send it to the Woody?
You should. Yeah.
Either it's the hat or shave the fucking beard. One or the other. They're both not working. One of the other's not working.
I'm okay with the beard. Sloaner likes to like say he's put shoe polish on that beard, but but you know what? It's just a hat for me, man. The hat's terrible. Let's go, Ryan.
Yeah, he does. He could definitely use a different sort of mojo, maybe he just needs a full like makeover, dude. Like his entire,
right.
You know, maybe he should like wear a vest all season.
Maybe
like,
I should just
really
fucking be like
up.
his stylist this season.
It does look like he's lost a little weight. Actually, he's looking a little more
like,
svelte. So maybe that'll help.
Out.
All right, fellas, let's keep rolling here. Next question, next prediction. CP, this one goes to you. What will Ohio State's regular season record be? Give us your prediction.
I'm going 12-0.
12-0. Okay. I love it. How about you, PBH? Give us your prediction. Regular season record.
I'm 11-1. And the reason why I'm 11-1 is, and I'm not sure what game they're going to win, but they do have to go on the road and play one top 5 opponent and another top 10 opponent. And I think if there's an opportunity to lose one, there is an opportunity that they could lose one of those games. But it will not surprise me either, and I fully expect them to be 12-0. But the schedule has some tough games, and when we looked at each individual game, I kind of discounted, and the Iowa game before the Oregon game might be a little bit of a factor. So I could see them dropping one of those two games pretty easily. Yeah. I mean, not pretty easily, but I could see it. So I'm going with 11-1.
11-1.
Do you
okay.
think, like, Z, do you think it would be like, in your opinion, do you think it would be like better for us to lose a game like early? Yeah,
I mean, I think, almost every Ohio State season that I've sat through, that I've watched, they reach a point where you're kind of like, things are feeling a little stale, or they've got something that they're getting by on something that's not really working, and it's only a loss will force them to address whatever that is. Sometimes there are, you see it in the NFL all the time, right? I mean, like a team gets to a certain point in the season where they peaked, and they kind of need to take a loss to peak again. So
Right.
that could be on the
Focus
cards, and you can afford that now. Thank God, right? I mean, it's ridiculous that you know my diatribe that for decades that we expected regular season perfection out of kids, when in the NFL you could afford to take 5 or 6 losses in the season and make adjustments and course correct. So that may very well be a play this year for this team. I'm going to go out on a limb I'm with you, CP, man. I'm going 12-0. And I know they have to play at Oregon and at Penn State. Those are tough places to win. And I know Oregon is a fellow title contender, number 3 in the preseason AP poll. But this Ohio State team, with all that veteran experience and talent, the players they added from the portal, the addition of Chip Kelly as the OC. I mean, the Buckeyes are number 1 in the blue chip ratio rankings. There's no shortage of motivation with all that unfinished business from that talented senior class. This team's built for it. And the other thing is, great defense and a good running game. They travel, right? You can take those things with you wherever you play. Yeah. So I think if a team's going to do it, if they can go wire to wire in the regular season, it would be this team. So fuck it, I'm going on a limb, 12-0 in the regular season.
PVH, what do we think about this? Like, I'm like, I love that. Like these, like, I'm on.
Am I making you nervous?
I'm like fucking whoop whoop, like the fucking Z train right there. But like, I don't know. Should we be nervous about this?
No.
Or like, should we be stoked about it?
I'm leaning in.
Let's roll on the positive train.
Let's do it.
I like it.
All right, but let me ask you this: would you guys both say 12-0 if the Penn State game wasn't the big noon lick off and it was a night game? Would you still be 12-0?
Sure. Yeah, I would, because I think
I'd rather it be at night.
Well, I do too, but dude, it's a big disadvantage for Penn State not to have that game.
Right, the whiteout, dude.
Yeah,
right.
Dude, that's to me
that is huge, man. Like the home, like fun, like, and you get like atmosphere like that. That is like electric. That brings an element to the game. Like, like this, like it's I mean, I don't even say it's electric. That's just like crazy.
In most other years, I would agree. I just feel like this team is built to win anywhere, anytime. I just think it's that loaded, and it's got all the ingredients that you'd want of a team that can win in really difficult environments. They may end up proving me wrong, but that's just the way it looks to me.
I agree with you, man. I feel like these guys are like, I mean, they're focused as shit. You know what I mean? Like when you got like somebody who like we've been wanting to like 5-star blue chipper kid coming out, like my boy number 33 linebacker, like Jack Sawyer. When he's like now he's a captain. He was very vocal in getting like a lot of the guys to buy into like, well, yeah, I mean, like, the paycheck or whatever. But like, I mean, like he was very vocal in getting guys. But let's what the fuck? We don't have any gold pants. Let's come on.
Yeah,
we're better than this.
Yeah,
and I just think what I mean. I think these guys just have a chip on their shoulder all year, man. Like,
it's a big factor. It's a big factor. I think the unfinished business piece might be what some folks are. Not a lot, but some folks might be underestimating it. I mean, maybe those that voted overwhelmingly for Georgia to be the number 1 team in the country might not be kind of weighing the unfinished business piece for Ohio State. All right, fellas, so let's keep moving here. Next prediction. Will the Buckeyes win the Big Ten? And if so, which team will they defeat in the Big Ten title game, CP?
We will win the Big Ten championship, and I think we will beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship.
Wow, rematch with Penn State. Okay, I like it.
That's what I say.
All right, I like it, CP. How about you, PBH?
Yeah, I kind of like that prediction. Will they win the Big Ten? Yeah, I think they will. Probably. I'm going to roll a CP on that. I like the outlier of Penn State getting in there.
Okay.
I think most people would expect a Ohio State-Oregon rematch. I mean, clearly it's the top 3. I mean, we'll see. I don't think Michigan's going to be much this year. No, I like that. I'm gonna say they will, and they will beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship.
Okay. So could it be in the cards that maybe Oregon finds their first year in the Big Ten a little rougher go than people are expecting, and maybe even they are expecting, even considering all the talent and the great offseason they had? I mean, Dan Lanning could rightly claim to have had a better offseason than Ryan Day. I mean, he's a great coach. They had a top 3 or 4 recruiting class, top 3 or 4 transfer class. Very talented, but you're in a new conference now. You're playing in a line of scrimmage league. That's what the Big Ten is. And you've got, Ohio State at home, but then you also have to go to Michigan. They have to play at Michigan. They also have an interesting late November game at Wisconsin, I believe. So if that's the case, I'm just kind of
jump around.
I'm just trying to make a case for your predictions, guys, where it would not be out of the realm of reality or possibility that maybe Oregon finds a little tougher sledding in the Big Ten than we think. And, trying to win at Michigan, at Wisconsin might be, they could get upset in those games. I'm going to go chalk. I think the Buckeyes win the Big Ten. I think they beat Oregon in a rematch in the Big Ten title game. Not the most adventurous, sexy pick. I think probably pretty much everyone's making that prediction. Penn State's going to have to show me that you can do it before I can really buy in.
That Penn State all comes down to like Drew, that a lot of that the quarterback. He was supposed to be like the new godsend there, but he's not lived up to anywhere close to the hype.
I don't think he was terrible though either. I think he was. No, I would say most Penn State fans would say it was slightly disappointing because they were expecting. As a 5-star recruit, they were expecting him to explode. But he's got a new offensive coordinator there, Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas. So maybe that'll help him out there. We know they'll be able to run the football and play great defense. So who knows? I think it's a solid pick. I mean, it could certainly not out of the realm of possibility that Penn State is their rematch with Ohio State. All right, fellas, let's keep rolling here. How many Big Ten teams will make the college football playoff, and which teams will those be? CP?
Well, I'm going to say Illinois, Indiana, Rutgers. Obviously, I'm going to go Penn State, Oregon, Buckeyes, and fourth one, man. I don't know, man. But I'll tell you what, Michigan, their offense, it's not sure what that's all about, but their defense is going to be solid.
Yeah, tough schedule though. Really tough schedule.
I do.
Texas in week 2, and
I would love to see them beat Texas in the shoe, dude. I remember the fucking whatever that place is, that shithole. The big house or whatever the fuck it is.
Did you just
mix
up the shoe and the big house?
Oh boy, that's a faux pas.
Listen. I need you to edit that out, Z.
No.
All right. So CP, you've got Oregon, you've got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State.
Who the fourth team could be?
How do you know there's going to be 4?
Yeah. Could it be only 3?
I thought that's what Z said.
No, I said how many teams and which ones are they?
Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State.
Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. So you only have 3 Big Ten teams making the field. Okay. So how about you, PBH?
I agree, 3, and I think the same 3. Well, actually, I was going to ask a question. So I don't think, Michigan's not. Their defense is going to be really good, but I think their offense. I mean, they lost literally. Man,
they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be yet.
That entire offense is gone. All those linemen. So I just don't see Michigan doing it. Hold on, give me a minute. I'm looking at the AP poll.
They still got Donovan, right? See?
Donovan Edwards comes back, and Colston Loveland are really the only 2 major contributors. Loveland was the starter. Edwards was technically a reserve, but they lost all five starting offensive linemen. They lost their 2 best receivers. They obviously J.J. McCarthy. That's a lot to replace, and of course, Blake Corum. I mean, McCarthy and Corum were generational talents. Those are big losses. And you couple that with a really, really tough schedule.
I'm not a believer in Michigan. And God, am I seeing this right? That Wisconsin's not even ranked in the top 25?
That's right.
That's what's great. I think that could be the sneaker sleeper. Somebody comes into Wisconsin, they're all jumping around like House of Pain shit, and fucking just take it. Luke takes big victory.
Yeah,
I think I could see that happening.
What's going on with Luke up there? That's I wonder when the last time Wisconsin wasn't ranked in the top 25. I mean, there's nobody else. That surprises me. So I'm just going with 3 teams. Michigan,
Yeah. Okay.
I will say this. You know who I think is going to be a sleeper team in the Big Ten, just because of the coach, who he is, Matt Rule. I think Nebraska's going to actually show up this year.
Yeah, well, we talked about this on the preview pod that we did when we looked at Ohio State's 5 toughest opponents in the regular season schedule. We talked about Nebraska, and their schedule sets up nicely. They could potentially be undefeated when they play Ohio State. Ohio State could potentially be their only regular season loss. We know they're going to have a really good defense. They were a good defense last year. They've got Dylan Raiola. So not out of the realm of possibility. So my prediction, I think it's going to be 4. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. And I'm going to take a flyer on Iowa.
Wowzers. Do you know what? That is a good pick, Z.
I think they're going to, similar to Nebraska, their schedule sets up nicely. I think they're going to have they've got the best defensive coordinator in the country. Phil Parker is a great defensive coordinator. They're going to be really good on defense. They are getting Cade McNamara, their starting quarterback, back. They lost him in the first half of last season to a torn ACL. They're getting Luke Lachey, their stud tight end, back. He broke his ankle in week 3. So and they have a new offensive coordinator, Tim Lester from Western Michigan. So I'm going to take a flyer on Iowa as that 4th playoff team for the Big Ten. So I got 4: Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa, probably seeded in that order as well. Okay.
That is a good pick. I like that. I didn't even think about it.
I considered Michigan as well. Wouldn't surprise me if they cobble together a 10-2, 9-3 season, but I'm taking a flyer on Iowa.
I will say this, real quick, Z. Michigan will beat either Oregon or Texas in the fucking up in Ann Arbor.
I like that. I think those both are going to be rock fights.
They'll beat one of the two.
Yeah, I think there's going to be both very tight games. Total rock fights are going to come down to the last couple of minutes of the fourth quarter. All right, let's keep moving here. Next question, next prediction. Who will be the top 4 seeds in the college football playoff? And let me remind you, the top 4 seeds have to be conference champions. They're going to come from the Power 4, so you can't have 2 teams from the same conference among the top 4 seeds. Do you guys want me to go first, or CP?
Yeah,
do you want
let's hear.
Okay,
dude,
I'll go first.
What you got, Z?
I'll go first. I got Ohio State number 1. I'm taking Texas to win the SEC number 2. Could be Ohio State or Texas, and you could flip-flop them, but I'm going to say Texas comes out the SEC. Georgia's got if you look at the schedules, Georgia's got a really tough schedule they have to navigate. I got Florida State as the ACC champion, getting one of those top 4 seeds, and then I got Utah coming out of the newly formed, the new look Big 12. Ohio State, Texas, Florida State, and Utah are my top 4 seeds.
Kyle Whittingham, man, that dude can coach.
Yeah, we know he can coach. All right, so, PVH, I'm going to start with you. Give me your top 4 seeds.
Well, I had no idea you had to win your conference. That changes everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absurd. You
could the presses.
Yes, BDB. Read all about it.
Oh, yeah. BDB.
Be the BDB or BBB. I'm not even in Belpre Daily Beast form yet. Now I have no idea, because I definitely thought Georgia and Oregon, but I guess Georgia and Texas, but that can't be.
Nope.
That can't be. So
you got Ohio State coming out of the Big Ten. Who do you got coming out of the SEC?
Dude, you want to know something? I had no clue Texas was in the SEC I knew, but I totally forgot. I totally forgot.
And Oklahoma. Yeah.
The Horns, yep.
Oh, holy shit. No, Georgia. So Ohio State, Georgia.
ACC?
All right. God, I just don't see who the hell is in the Pac-12.
Pac-12 is a 2-team.
Nobody.
There's 2 teams left from the Pac-12. They've been eviscerated.
I mean, fuck, you might as well pick Colorado.
Oregon State and Washington State are the only 2 remaining Pac-12 teams. They are not eligible. They're not one of the Power 4. The Power 5 is no more. It's the Power 4. It's the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and Big 12. So let me help you out. ACC. A lot of people like Florida State. Miami, though, acquired a lot of guys in the transfer portal. They're kind of a chic pick to come out of the. I personally think it's a 2-team race in the ACC. Florida State. Well, and then you've got Clemson. You can't count out Clemson. Technically.
You know what? I'm gonna
Dabo.
I'm taking Dabo.
You're taking Dabo. All right.
I can't stand.
So you got Ohio State. You got Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and then out of the Big 12, the newly formed, new look Big 12. Who do you got coming out?
Nobody. They should be eligible. These teams are terrible. They're not allowed to be in the top. Why?
I'll tell you what, the Big 12's got a couple teams. I
They
think
are one of the Power
No,
Four.
They're
I
going to be all right.
No, I got it. Notre Dame. Why can't they be in the top four?
Because you have to you have to be a conference champion. The best Notre Dame can do is a 5 seed.
independent.
They're independent. You have to be a conference
that's the whole
champion,
thing.
so
They
they are
can't
not
do
eligible
that
to get one of
crap.
the top 4 seeds in this new format.
Are you kidding me? They
No.
let that slide?
The best they can do is a 5
yeah,
seed.
Dude, like,
Best they can do is the 5 seed. So Notre Dame is not eligible.
bitches.
I
Join a
cannot
conference,
believe-
fucking Notre Dame. Come on.
I
Yeah,
cannot believe though that
seriously.
they agreed to that. Why
Well-
would they ever agree to that horse shit?
I don't know,
Because
but
they have no choice. Like, do you want to be a little bitch and fucking be on your
No,
own?
nah,
Like, do
you know
whatever?
what? We can
That's a true
rag on
story.
Notre Dame all we want. They carry a big stick. I mean, at
Yeah,
the
for
end of
sure.
the
They've
day-
been relevant since 1991.
Well, it doesn't
That-
matter though.
that-
They still, you know what they get? They get eyeballs, right? So
Yeah.
it's just.
well, they did agree
wow.
to it. So yeah, the best they can do
Catholics.
is the 5 seed. So
So I have to pick a team from the. All right, yeah, Utah is probably the one. But okay, now I hate this. I don't like that. This got me very upset. This is
Oh
stupid.
boy, I can hear it. Through
Yeah,
the
well,
phone.
wait-
I mean, I can like sort
Like
of
this
feel it.
is like back to fucking stupid bullshit, right? Like, what are you talking about?
I don't know if I'd
You
go
have
that
these
far.
Conference championship, conference champ. So Utah could lose 4 games and still win their
and get a 1 seed. Yeah, that's true. They
Now
could.
that's kind of like that's stupid. Now that you bring that up, that just like makes no sense.
So it is-
seriously, who are these people that come up with these rules? It's just
College, they do it all the
Like,
time.
I think
should
they
be-
figured it out. They haven't.
They never
That should
think
be one
these
of
things
those
fully
where you,
through.
like,
They
it
never do.
trumps, Like
They never
like,
think these
you
things
could
fully
pick
through.
an at-large team. Like if somebody's got like 2 or 3 losses, you can pick an at-large team. Like that should be like a rule that gets implemented.
I'm sure they'll
Instead of,
modify it as we go forward, but the reality is
they've
they've.
82 team playoff in a couple
Yeah.
years.
Okay. CP, you're up. Give us.
All right, so I'm gonna
Wait. What were my 4? I don't even know.
So you said Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Utah.
Yeah, and guaranteed that's not going to be the 4. There's no way.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the
But
Big
if it-
12, the Big 12 could be a little bit more of an open kind of a battle because you've got Kansas State at number 18 in the preseason. Well, you have Oklahoma State at 17 in the AP poll. Kansas State at 18. The Kansas Jayhawks. I like Lance Leipold. He's a good coach. They're 22. You got Arizona at 21. So you have 4 other ranked teams that could make a little noise. It could be an interesting race in the Big
I'm
12.
telling you what, dude. Like people are sleeping on the Mountaineers, dude. Neil's like that dude's a good coach, man. Like,
So they could
people-
come
a
out of
lot
the Big
people
12 as
sleeping on
well. All right, CP.
Yeah, but-
so give us your
all right.
predictions for
This
top
is
4
kinda
seeds.
like, hold on to your skirts here, boys. Like, I'm going to tell you who's coming out of the SEC.
All right, let's hear it.
That boy down south, like, got fired on the runway. Lane Kiffin. I'm taking Old Miss to come out of the fucking A-start SEC.
Okay.
I agree with you on the Florida State. And like, I mean, you have to say like Utah. I mean, like, really, at the end of the day, like, I mean, whatever.
Okay.
Like, and and obviously, like, I don't need to say like. But aside from us, so
Ohio State,
mine's Ole Miss, Buckeyes,
Ohio State,
Florida
Ole
State,
Miss,
and
Florida
Utah.
State, and Utah. Okay.
Yep.
I like it, CP. I like it. Okay, finally. Last prediction before we get into a little recruiting, and I'll let you guys go. Will this Ohio State team win the first national title of the 12-team playoff? PBH?
Yeah, they will because they won it the first time when
That's
they
right.
went to the 4 team.
That's right.
And,
Okay.
And
Oh,
this team is stacked, and that little nugget popped in my head on my bike ride today, and that's where I'm gonna hang my hat. I think, they're gonna do it. Fate's gonna be in our corner. I thought Day was gonna win it in his 3rd year, just like Jimmy and Urban did, but that didn't happen. So Fate just made us wait a couple more years, and they're gonna win the inaugural 12-team playoff.
Okay. I like it.
wow.
I like it. All right, CP, how about you? Will Ohio State win the very first national title, the 12-team playoff era?
Yes, like I'm gonna have to say like not because I'm like being like like Ohio
Because
State
we're
homer. I'm just
fanboys?
saying, yep, we're fanboy. You read out about it, fanboys. But no, seriously, I think that Day has gone like he gets so much shit, man. But like I'm telling you what, I think there's like a nucleus right now in that program, and the vibe between like the brotherhood, like other it. I think that's like I'm going to say yes. They're going to win a national championship,
Right.
and it's going to be one of the most glorious days like that I can recall in my life.
Beautiful. I love it. Man.
So can I say one other thing before you go, Zach?
Of course. Go ahead.
The other thing that is huge is you basically have 3 head coaches on that team, right? With
Yep.
Chip and Knowles, he could have probably gotten the Duke job.
Right. Oh, right.
The players, we know the talent on the field. My God, it's like I constantly forget. I was like, oh yeah, Chip Kelly's our offensive coordinator. Like that
Huge.
dude at one point was the hottest coach in all of football, pro or college.
Yeah.
see.
Right.
And he got
those are-
he had 2 NFL coaching jobs as well.
Yeah.
Philly and San Francisco.
Crazy.
And I just think, and CP made reference to this earlier, right? Just his relationship with Day, like he can be in his ear, because who knows when, as Day took over, and this is one of the things that I said, it's like, we hate to say it, but the guy kind of was learning on the job, right? And,
It's true.
Not that he was necessarily
Right.
born on third base, but when you go from where he
Yeah,
was and
fuck
then
you,
you end up
hardball.
as the head coach at Ohio State, that's on third base. And, he made some mistakes along the way. And I don't know that he had anybody that he could, really, really trust as a sounding board. He probably had a little bit of ego trying to, prove everybody wrong, blah, blah, blah. And Kevin Wilson was up but with Chip and Knowles and man, like just those 3 guys and the other coaches as well, right? God,
Yeah.
they're amazing. Heartline.
Heartline.
Hey, I
Line.
just hit the button right there, like a warm button. Like, oh my God, like that is so fucking rich. That's like, and it's real. Like, Day is like he's got a lot of like he's the pressure is like like he can breathe a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how much pressure he's actually feeling versus holy shit, how fun can this actually be?
Dude, 100%.
I mean, that's the mindset, right? That's the mindset I think he
Right.
has to try to approach this season to, and try not to let the pressure get to him.
I think one of the beautiful things about Chip Kelly too is he's so happy, and he said this like so many times, like I don't have to do shit, but like call this offense, man.
Yeah.
That's all I have to do. I don't have to worry
What
about
a luxury.
NIL, like any of that bullshit. I'm just gonna fucking just fucking come up with the fucking sweet offense. That's
Yeah.
all I need to do.
What a luxury for Ohio State to have somebody of his
Yes.
experience and
Oh my
talent,
God, I'm
calling the
getting
offense,
teary-eyed.
preparing the offense. I said this when we talked about the schedule a couple of pods ago, that the one thing I think Kelly's really going to help Ryan Day with is he's going to be able to come up with more, bespoke game plans that are aimed at, taking advantage of the other team's weaknesses. We didn't really see that the last couple of years when it was really just Day and a few kids on the staff. Like Corey Dennis, was he going to help him do that? No, I mean, and Brian Hartline, all due respect to Hartline, who was technically like a co-OC last year, I mean, very talented position coach and a rising star, but he was not ready for that responsibility last year.
Right.
And as we saw in high leverage moments multiple times over the last couple of years, like Day really needed that other adult in the room. Now he has it in Chip Kelly, and I also think the staff as a whole has really filled out and it resembles, I think, probably that first Urban Meyer staff that he had when they won a national championship. So I do think that is a huge advantage. That just add that to the many ingredients that you need to legitimately win a national championship. I mean, God, I think my official answer is I don't know. Because as loaded as this team is at every level, from the coaching staff through the player personnel, and while qualifying for the playoff is easier, winning it, I think, just got a lot more difficult, because even if you get one of those top 4 seeds, you now have to win an extra playoff game to win the national championship. And if you don't get one of those first 4 seeds, then it's 2 playoff games. So it's I don't know. I'm leaning toward yes. And I know that's a cop-out chicken shit answer, but I think that's where I stand right now.
Right. So what do we think about this, PVH? Like, I've been like back there, like fucking hands up in the air for like Z, like this is like I mean like I love this Z, like this is awesome, but and then we just went wah, wah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
no,
totally.
like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
So that's my
One thing I
official
think good for
stance.
Ryan Day too, though, is like I think Chip Kelly will actually be like, dude, you need to just chill the fuck out and like just relax, man.
That'll
Like,
help for
we're,
sure.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, walking into Autzen Stadium on October 12th.
Okay, let me ask you this, Zach.
Yeah.
If I can guarantee you that there won't be any the luck thing is always a thing, right? You need
Yeah.
some luck, right? Bad injury, but I can guarantee you there's not going to be any catastrophic, super unlucky thing that happens to them that derails the national championship hopes.
Uh-huh.
Would you send them? Yeah, of course.
I think so. I mean, it's just that what you said, right? An injury, a key, that fluky, someone jumps up and bites you at the wrong moment. I mean, that's what's taken down a lot of these other teams that we've talked about, right? That were poised. If they can get to the title game and it's mano a mano with Georgia, I fucking love our chances.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's like the 2015. It was what, third. It's not an excuse, but it was horrible weather, right? Like rainy, just a terrible freaking game, and that one thing derailed. I mean, arguably the most talented team from repeating as national champ. And I think it would take something like that to stop this team from winning it all, and that could very well happen. Right, because we've seen it before, but the having to win 2 extra games in the playoff is another. It's that's a thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, who knows?
Think about like last year, dude. Like, I mean, a field goal away from I mean,
God. Yeah.
I mean, like, so it's like we could like 2000. Like, I mean, there's probably like over the last 6-7 years. I mean, there's we had a chance to if you on paper and the way we played our point, we could have had 2 or 3 national championships. And it's just not went our way. But
and
I think
we're due too, right?
Yeah, we are.
It's been 10 years.
We are due.
10 years. Yeah, no,
10 years. Yeah,
I totally agree. I totally agree. There are, I mean, all the ingredients are there, and I think the one area that probably all three of us were most concerned about in terms of player personnel was offensive line. But I mean, I heard Bill Landis say about a week ago, and in fall camp, the offensive line has been holding its own against the defensive line. And Bill Landis went from his prediction for the Ohio State offensive line went from, serviceable kind of average Big Ten caliber offensive line to he thinks the best offensive line in the conference and potentially one of the best offensive lines in the country. And he's somebody who I listen to when it comes to offensive line. So, I mean, a lot of people are bullish on that. That was supposed to be the big weakness of this team. That's another reason I think to be really optimistic. I mean, all the ingredients are there, and there's good reason to feel very confident. I certainly do feel confident. I'm falling. I'm just one step short of saying they're actually going to do it, which I know is a chicken shit cop out. All right.
I kind of like you pulling back a little bit. It's weird, like the magic carpet, like Jesus, like riding around on it. I'm like, oh my God, Paige, I'm not really sure. But we're not used to this. What's going on here?
All right.
So I like that. I love pull back the reins.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Now, before we wrap things up, finally, CP, I know you've been wanting to talk a little 2025 recruiting. I'm going to cue us up, and then I'm going to kick it to you. 24 verbal commitments so far for Ohio State's 2025 recruiting class, which is currently number 1 in the country, according to both 24/7 Sports and Rivals. The class currently includes 10 top 100 players, according to 24/7 Sports.
Oh, yeah.
They did get some bad news today, unfortunately. The number 1 offensive tackle prospect, Devin Sanders Jr. out of Charlotte, chose Tennessee instead of the Buckeyes. That was a big disappointment. But outside of that, CP, take it away.
Well, I love the recruiting side of things, and it's really insane to think about that. The kid from St. Clair's, Tavian St. Clair. The kid is he's from Bell Fountain. Is that what it is? Yeah, that kid's got up to a 5-star. He they said he's like, I mean, a baller. Like,
He's the
I
number
mean,
one
like,
recruit in the country, right?
yeah, it's like he just became like, yeah, he
He
like
was just elevated
uh,
to that. I think you're right, according to
yeah,
Rivals.
it's like crazy. And the kid like is just he's I mean, it's crazy the shit that's going on there. But like you got like Devin Sanchez. Wow. I mean, come on, a
Five-star
five-star
corner,
cornerback.
6'2" from
Oh,
Houston. Big
yep.
corner,
And then you
big
got
dude.
another
Yeah.
five-star cornerback,
Naheem
like
Offord.
Naheem Offord, dude. Like, I mean, it's just it's crazy. And then like you go like now Carter Lowe, we did like hit that kid. Like he's a five-star,
Offensive tackle
OT.
from
Like some
Toledo.
consider him
Yep.
a four-star, some like five-star, but he's an offensive tackle. And then you've got like Fahim Delane, like that kid. He's like a four-star safety. And then one that makes me really like happy, the kid out of Texas, man. Riley Pettijohn, like the
The linebacker.
linebacker,
Yeah.
dude. He's like, yeah, he's like a four-star, five-star in some. And then you have Tarvis Alford, like linebacker, dude. Like how,
Another Florida kid.
when can we say that? Like, like linebacker. Like, you know what I mean? Like
It's
we're not
James
having to like take
Laurinaitis
some
effect there.
the running back who like is not that good of a running back and make him a linebacker. You know what I mean? Like let's get this shit fucking like going. But like I mean, you got Zion Grady, four-star dude, an edge rusher, and you got Bo Jackson, the running back. I mean, like
Out
it's
of
like
Cleveland.
it's ridiculous. You got Quincy Porter, wide receiver, four-star. And Mathis. That kid, Edge, he's like a 4 or 5-star and like a lot of like
Out of Philly.
services. London Merritt, that kid's the defensive lineman. Larry Johns, like 4-star, 5-star, and something. Maxwell Roy, another 4-star defensive lineman.
Yeah.
And then you got like that Nate Roberts kid, like tight end. He's a 4-star. I mean, like it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, they've recruited well under Ryan Day. I give Day credit, right? There's really not been any drop off since Urban Meyer to Ryan Day, and he's upheld that recruiting standard.
Yep.
I do want to drill down a little bit though on offensive line recruiting, because as well as Ohio State has recruited in all these other areas, and I know they're still sitting at number one in both of the major recruiting services. The loss of David Sanders Jr. is pretty big, and a lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, there's not been a lot for Justin Fry to hang his hat on in recruiting so far for Ohio State. I want to read this tweet from Jay Book of Bucknuts. He says, this is from a few days ago, quote, "Right now, when it comes to out-of-state offensive linemen, Justin Fry has a 17.6 closing percentage. For Ohio State to only have 16 offensive line offers out for 2026, while Georgia has 40 and Bama has 36, is crazy. Is anyone in the Woody paying attention? The math doesn't math. Fry has only been able to convince 17 out-of-state offensive linemen to officially visit since he arrived, and he's only closed 3.
Unacceptable.
When the offensive line coach has an atrocious closing percentage, you absolutely cannot have this small amount of offers where you only end up with 2 offensive line commitments heading into the season. It's just basic math." Now, most fans, myself included, have no idea how to evaluate offensive line play. I mean, unless it's completely obvious, like Orlando Pace or Paris Johnson Jr., most of us have no idea what good looks like. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what level of concern I should have here with offensive line recruiting because, on the one hand, losing Sanders to a program like Tennessee, who isn't Georgia or Alabama, clearly looks really bad. I mean, it seems to me that's a recruitment Ohio State should win. On the other hand, Ohio State did manage to land a commitment from Carter Lowe. You've already mentioned that, CP. He's a good player, one of the top 35 overall players in the 2025 class. And then you look at this year's starting offensive line. It has Donovan Jackson. He was the number 7 overall player in his class. It has Tegra Shabola, who's the number 36 overall player in his class. Ohio State went into the portal.
Shabola, like they're saying he's going to be he could like ball out, like one of the best offensive line we have this year.
And Ohio State has gone into the portal over the last 18 months and grabbed a starting left tackle in Josh Simmons, who people really like. They're very bullish on him right now. They grabbed a starting center in Seth McLaughlin,
center award, whatever
from Bama. Yeah, also a very good player, 2-year starter from Alabama. So, and like I said, Bill Landis is really bullish on this offensive line. Now he thinks it could be one of the best in the country. So I look at all of that and I think, what's the fucking problem? I mean, is there really a crisis here? I just don't know how to evaluate it.
How that's absolutely asinine. I'd fire that guy tonight. I'd get rid of him. I mean, how many guys?
Give him a raise, dude.
How how many offensive linemen do they have in the next class?
Two.
Two?
Justin Fry.
Those numbers are disturbing. They're disturbing.
Yeah.
They're
That's
like, I'm trying to be
ridiculous.
positive with Z.
Yeah.
You know, like,
No,
it is
why
ridiculous.
be
but-
positive? The concernometer is a 10.
Wow.
That's,
Okay.
that's as obvious a 10 concernometer. It's not like it's goddamn quarterback where you only need one.
Right.
You need to be bringing in like 9 guys a year.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea who's going to pan out.
Yeah, who
Obviously,
goes down, right.
Orlando Paces will. Obviously, the Paris Johnsons will. Obviously, Gabe Van Sickle will work and he'll be a stud. But this is a
Van
massive
Sickle.
problem, dude. I would
Yeah.
have that guy. I mean, literally, I'd be like, dude, here's your boarding pass. Beat it back to California.
Well,
Yeah.
This isn't
to
working.
Z's point, though, like, and like,
Who is not
the
okay?
Landis dude, like, I mean, like I
Dude,
said,
you're
I think I
talking
said this
about the
earlier.
current offensive line. I'm
Yeah.
talking.
He's
you
an
need
instructor.
numbers.
Yeah.
I know.
There
Dude,
aren't
he
enough
develops-
bites at the apple, clearly.
I think he's a developer. Like he's just not a recruiter, and like I don't like.
Yeah, but
I
how do you
think maybe
develop
Heartline
two?
should get out there and
What are we
start
going to do?
recruiting
We're
this
going to be
fucking
playing
offensive line.
7-on-7. We need like literally 9 guys on the offensive
We should
line.
be bringing in those like fucking 6, and going back to like Shabola. Is that Z Shabola? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, yep, that's right. Tegra
CT.
Shabola. He's going to be a starting right
That
guard
dude
this
is
year.
6'6", 360 pounds. dude.
That's fine. We're looking into the future. Where are the next ones of those guys? And
That's-
by the way,
Right.
as much as we like to rag on Michigan and rag on Jimmy Harbaugh, like that guy's
Yeah.
offensive line was too deep.
Trenches,
it all
man.
went into the freaking NFL.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
Trenches.
yeah, well, and they did it, and Michigan built those great offensive lines over the last 3 seasons without recruiting a single 5-star prospect. So I think Ohio State has to. They do need to kind of figure out the recruiting strategy when it comes to offensive line recruiting. Either you lean even more into going after the creme de la creme, the David Sanders Jr.'s, types, and you assure that you get those guys. It's more NIL. It's more, I don't know. Or you do maybe what Michigan has done. And we know Michigan is not living in the top 5 of the recruiting rankings every year, right? It's more kind of middle of the pack in the top 25. You become adept at identifying those diamonds in the rough. You recruit dogs, kids that want to come play for you. LaCharles Bentley said this earlier this week. I saw a great tweet from him. Bentley, as we remember, great interior offensive lineman at Ohio State. His philosophy is, man, recruit Ohio, get kids that want to come play for you, get kids that have the right mentality, dogs. They're going to work hard. They're nasty. And I think offensive line is the one position, I think, where you can make up for perhaps a lack of talent and athleticism with a mentality and outworking
Grit,
guys
right.
and being a nasty, nasty dude. So maybe that's what Ohio State needs to shift to. It works for Michigan. And it also works for programs like Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, those programs churn out seemingly every year high-quality offensive lines with far less talent than what Ohio State's
100%,
working with, right? So figure out what you want to be. Do you want to try and...
We don't necessarily need those 5-star recruits. Like you get I'll take like 2 like dogs, like gritty like motherfuckers like from Ohio that like just want to develop and they like to
Yeah,
get
like
in,
a Billy
from around,
Price and a Pat
just
Afflein.
big
Those-
that
Yeah,
build their shit up.
Price and Elfline, those guys were not highly rated recruits, right?
Right.
But they were nasty, nasty dudes. And so figure out what you want to be when it comes to offensive line recruiting. And personally, I think going the route of Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, put a fence around the region and just get kids that want to come play for you is much more realistic than pinning your hopes on going down to Florida and Georgia and plucking those kids out of the backyards of the Alabamas and Georgias. It's just not fucking realistic. I don't know. What do you think, PBH?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of ironic you say that because that's exactly what we're doing with Heartline and wide receivers. It's like, we can't recruit nationally and get offensive linemen. We're freaking Ohio State, man. Like like that is completely turned on its head. And again, I don't know, to your point, like how to evaluate an offensive lineman. I do know big. Right? I do know big. I do know high school. They eat like crap. Get them in the woody. Get them eating nutritiously. Get them in the weight room. Like sometimes big is all you need. And nasty, sure. I don't know if they're nasty or not.
Look at DeJuan Jones. He's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But
fuck,
dude, this is
I don't know. I mean, to me, this is a 5-story alarm should be going off. This has got to be addressed. This cannot stand.
This will not stand, man.
This will not stand, man.
So I think it is interesting because I feel like we have three different kind of views of it. I think CP, you seem less concerned about it and have a much more positive outlook about offensive line recruiting. It's a 5-alarm fire according to you, PVH. I'm somewhere in the middle. Still not really know.
Serious, Z, don't you agree?
Yeah,
5-star alarm. That's serious.
A 5-alarm fire. Sorry, I meant to say, but I'm kind of in the middle. I'm in the middle, not quite sure how to evaluate this, and I'm not sure what level of panic we need to be at because Ohio State seems to survive. In spite of this, and you've got, there's still time to flip a kid. You still have the transfer portal. So I don't know what level of panic I need to have here.
I agree with you. Like, let's just focus on this year's offensive line, who is just exceeding expectations, and hey, we'll worry about it in 25.
But that's on paper. That hasn't actually happened yet. That's just what we're hearing, and okay, they still have to go out and prove it. But it's not like running back or wide receiver. There's only one ball for those guys, and quarterback. Offensive line, it's a numbers game. And whoever J Book, I totally agree with him. What is the philosophy here? Mm-hmm. And and if you tell me Ohio State can't go out and recruit nationally, then I'm like, then what school are we talking about?
They should be able to do both, right?
Well, I mean, 17.6 is sad. That is sad. Z, that stat is that's
17.6 close rate on out-of-state recruits, offensive line. Yeah, I think they should be able to do both. They're one of the
5-star
programs.
Alarm, I might be with the PPH.
Yeah, they should be able to do both. Ideally, I think the national championship, Doug Maurice made this point earlier today. The 2014 national championship team had a sprinkling of both. You had Taylor Decker, who was that elite 5-star left tackle, but then you had Billiot Price and Pat Elflein, who were lower rated recruits that were, Midwestern kids. I think Elflein was from Minnesota, I know Elflein was from Ohio, Cincinnati area. But anyway, it was a sprinkling of both. You should be able to recruit nationally with the big boys if you're Ohio State, and then also, draw those kind of local kids that really want to come, spill their blood for you. All right, fellas, listen, let's wrap things there. That was a great effort. Thanks so much for making the time. We will see you, everybody, in a couple of weeks to preview the Akron game. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_Stands.